Greetings, prospective students. My name is Joaquin Sims. I'm the graduate intern at the Office of Admissions and Outreach at the School of Education at the University of San Francisco. Today, I would like to introduce you to Andrea Rocha, who is the director of the OCLE.
Great. Thank you, Joaquin. Yes, hi. My name is Andrea, and OCLE actually stands for the Off-Campus Living and Engagement Department. And we are here at USF to actually help you not only with a housing search, but have many services for you after you found your housing. And so to continue on, the first slide, what I wanted to just demonstrate is the services that we have. And the main thing of what I'd like you to take away from this presentation is mainly just an awareness. And so first thing we'll talk about is awareness of this office. And so again, we are here not only to help you with your housing search, but also with when you move here, the actual living of off campus. And so as you can see, educate, civic responsibility, personal growth, safety and education, and just this connection to both USF as well as the neighborhood. Second thing I'd like to talk about is awareness of pricing and cost. And so there is a myth that it's a lot less expensive to live on campus, which I think gives the need for people to feel that they can't live off campus. But in actuality, as you can see just by the room rates, it's pretty comparable to be off campus or on campus. And actually you can find less expensive housing when you live off campus. And so next we want to talk about is the awareness of the process, okay? So what I like to start with is to know the market. So according, just to an idea, according to Bloomberg, so there's a this June, 2016, the housing market in SF is actually leveling off. Now, this doesn't mean it's affordable, but it does mean that it's not getting as crazy as it used to be. But you can see by our prices, we're pretty up there. We are constantly battling with New York City, of Manhattan, actually, for the highest rent of the country. And unfortunately, we just were rated by the SF Gate in September for the most overvalued price. However, I will say it's an amazing neighborhood or area to live in. But again, it's just important to know what you're stepping into before you actually start looking. The next thing we talked about is steps. And so it's really important to have a budget. This will determine your options. And I also put values down because you also want to be flexible. So you absolutely want to know what you want, but you also need to be a little bit flexible here because the market is so competitive. And the third is action. And so these listed here are actual practical tips. One, again, getting all of your finances and renter data information together before you start looking for housing, actually narrowing down the options, and then possibly even creating a bio post, which would have your information out there so people could look at it, but then also you actively searching. Next thing is our awareness of our housing culture. So I feel like we're a little different here from some places, and having talked to numerous students from across the country and even outside of the country, what I'd like to share is there are a couple things that are just unique to San Francisco. One, here a living room does count as a bedroom. It's absolutely normal to have 4 people in a 2-bedroom apartment, and it's actually pretty normal to have 5 people in a 2-bedroom. We did have a famous story of probably made the paper 3 or 4 years ago, where this guy in our Mission District was actually renting out his laundry room for $500 and actually had people start looking for it or at it. So again, it's just maybe different from where you may be coming from or coming from. And we also have different adjectives kind of to describe our housing market. So modern and character meaning a little more vintage or older. Some people who consider this very urban, and then outliving in the Sunset, which is another area closer to the water, more suburban type of a living. So you can just see there's a couple also coming into is our neighborhoods of where we're living. So awareness of neighborhoods, as you can see by the Google, from the Zumper, that it varies according to neighborhood, and then also living outside of the city also can vary. And so it's really important to check that out. Now, how do you find housing posts? So there's actually two ways. One, really big into social media. And so if you don't have a Facebook account, I would highly recommend getting one. If just for only to look at the housing, but also having a website and start to view probably the 20 that are out there currently, and we can provide resources for that. Now this screen is an awareness of what's in the housing market. And so these would be typical posts, and they actually came, as you can see from below, different neighborhoods. And this is the price tag that is associated with that area along with what you'd be getting. And this is one of my favorites. So what it's titled is an example of a legit post. And why I say the word legitimate is because unfortunately there are quite a few scams that do happen, and people are taking advantage of people who maybe just aren't aware. And so what I would like to show is just, one, it's a decent rent for the good size. And so what you want to look at is if the market value is fair. If it's considerably lower, there's a reason why, and it's probably not a good reason. Also, you want to look for location. And so being aware that although it may seem far away, it may be just one, at the most 2 bus rides, which actually is pretty doable because we have a really great transportation system. So what I recommend is to people to take the address that they're looking at, Google it into their phone, and don't pay as much attention to the time that it takes, but look at the bus routes. And so if it's anything more than 2 buses, it's going to take a considerable amount of time. So you just want to be aware of that. But overall, this is what a nice post would be. Questions you ask your property manager, really important, again, just to really be clear about the rent and the deposit and how much you need to pay up front. And so typically here it's rent plus deposit. Another big question is, how am I going to get my deposit back? Because typically these deposits are going to be over $900. And so you want to make sure that you get the most that you can. And going down, subletting, that's also a big issue that we have here. If you're going away for break, people wanting to rent out their apartment so they don't have to take the rent on their own. Unfortunately, sometimes that's just not permitted. And if you do it and it's not permitted, it's stated in your lease, that could be a cause for eviction. And so we absolutely don't want that to happen. And again, just some final tips and thoughts, and you can read through those. But basically, what I want you to think about is just networking. Very important, whether it be on social media, whether you're friends, whether you know someone who knows someone who lives in San Francisco. It's not uncommon for people to ask people on the bus, because I think we're all in the same boat here, and so we understand that need. Also realizing that it absolutely can be done here. You can find housing. It might be a little bit more challenging than other places for sure. But it's absolutely worth it. It's such an amazing area for so many different reasons. Yeah, I think that's about that on that. And then lastly, just a summary of the website that we have, as well as my name, our emails that you can certainly contact me if you have additional questions. And I thank you so much for taking the time to listen.
Thank you, Andrea. Also, at the end of this, we have a sheet of all the websites for networking and housing searches available. So if you are interested in those, please just email schoolofeducation@usfca.edu. Thank you very much for your time.